Here's you with the hard facts coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Federal Bank Primetime Studio. Viewers, what a gut-wrenching scene. What an absolutely gut-wrenching scene. A train bogie hanging precariously in the air, foisted atop another bogie. The picture is enough to tell you that the accident is going to have tragic consequences, and that's exactly what we've discovered after a goods train crashed into a stationary passenger train at that in Bengal. Several are injured, and the death toll is almost touching double figures. In scenes that remind us of the horrific Balasore tragedy, the Union Rail Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw is once again at the site inspecting the damage and assessing what can be done to prevent such an happenstance from repeating itself. The facts are as follows, viewers. 9 are dead after this goods train hit the Kanchanjunga Express from behind at Rangapani station in Darjeeling. 3 coaches of the Kanchanjunga Express, 1 parcel coach, 1 guard coach and 1 passenger coach were derailed. Viewers, we've been told that the driver and his helper are both dead. Goods train hit the parcel coach directly, followed by the guard coach, which reduced the impact on the passenger coach, luckily. The loco pilot of goods train, his assistant and guard of passenger train are among the deceased. The rail line, now this is very significant, viewers, did not have the kavach system. The kavach is a byword for shield. The goods train therefore overshot the signal before crashing into the passenger train. Had the kavach system been installed on this line, in this sector, there would not have been a problem. The kavach system is an anti-collision device that needs to be installed as Indian Railways introduce new faster trains and more middle-class Indians take to train travel. The kavach is an indigenously designed and developed foolproof system that activates as soon as it senses that the train is in imminent danger of meeting with an accident or derailment. Let me talk you through some of its features, viewers, and why it is so important. An automatic application of brakes if the loco pilot fails to do so. That's what the kavach system does. It overrides manual interfaces, repeats the line side signals to ensure space between trains. So everyone knows, all train drivers operating on perhaps one rail know how much gap they need to maintain, and they're constantly updated. Automates the line side signal for safety at high speeds and fog. So once again, it takes out, viewers, of the equation human interface. It updates movement authority, auto alerts at crossing gates. Very crucial, many accidents happen at crossing gates, viewers. It has a collision avoidance via direct loco-to-loco communication system, and an SOS feature to control nearby trains in case of mishap. So it tells them that a mishap is happening. Don't power in, don't speed into this grid. Slow down, stop. As soon as the accident occurred, however, viewers, a whole legion of opposition politicians and many on social media began demanding the sacking of the rail minister, who incidentally retained his portfolio in NDA 3.0. The common grouse was that Vaishnav is ineffective and that he spends too much time posting inconsequential self-promotional videos rather than ensuring passenger safety. Now, viewers, there's nothing wrong if a minister chooses to tweet videos of how the railways is modernizing. There's nothing wrong if the minister tweets videos of state-of-the-art infrastructure being built to make our journeys safer. Nothing wrong if he enthusiastically participates in ribbon-cutting ceremonies inaugurating glitzy Vande Bharat Express trains. Frankly, we'd be worried if he didn't. The Railways Minister has work to do, and it is good to know that he is working. But having said this, viewers, it must be emphasized that it is a problem if the minister has made a virtue of a life-saving technology while promising to implement it without coming up with the goods. Viewers, on numerous occasions, Vaishnav has talked about implementing kavach, ensuring that it is in place. India needs a modernized railway system. But what it needs first, make no mistake, is infrastructure that guarantees passenger safety. So what has happened with kavach? And how long before it is installed across the rail network? Here are some hard facts, viewers, and I always bring you the hard facts without bias so that you can get closer to the truth. The first hard fact. Now I'm taking you back, viewers, 8 years. The kavach field trials were conducted for the first time. The kavach system developed indigenously by Research, Design and Standards Organization, the RDSD, and 3 other Indian vendors. Now what happens, viewers? Hard fact 2. 7 years later, in February, we are told that the kavach system has been installed across 1,465 route kilometers and 139 locomotives, including electric multiple units rakes, primarily on the South Central Railway network. Now, viewers, think about it, and this brings me to hard fact 3. The kavach has been deployed for only 1,465 route kilometers. This is minuscule, especially given that the total track length of Indian Railways is about 1,32,310 kilometers, which includes broad, meter and narrow gauge tracks. Now think about the proportions, viewers. Here we are talking about 1,30,000, etc. And what we know, viewers, is that the kavach system has only been installed in a very, very small sector. In February 2024, we are told, which is this year, that tenders have been granted for the deployment of kavach on the Delhi-Mumbai and Delhi-Howrah corridors, covering approximately 3,000 route kilometers. Budgetary allocations for kavach in fiscal year 2024 was rupees 710 crores and nearly rupees 560 crores are earmarked for the FY25 interim budget. This brings me to hard fact 6. Providing trackside and station equipment costs rupees 50 lakh per kilometer. Equipping a locomotive costs rupees 70 lakh per kilometer. So taken together, viewers, you do the math, it comes to about 1.2 crores. At this rate of fund allocation, it will take minimum 3 to 4 years more at current prices to provide kavach across India, across all lines. That, viewers, is a long time. I want to open this up, viewers, and ask some fundamental and basic questions tonight. Savio Rodriguez, author and journalist, is with us. Dr. Anand Ranganathan bringing us the ordinary Indian's point of view on this show, the Aam Aadmi's point of view, dare I say. Dr. Ranganathan, let's first agree to disagree that these particular ministers who are in charge of the Railways Department, let's agree on this, have been a little derelict. Now, we can disagree on why and if they actually had a choice in the matter. But what do you think?
Good evening, Rahul, and to my fellow panelists. And first of all, my very sincere condolences to the families of the bereaved of this absolutely terrible tragedy. So many families destroyed within a matter of seconds. Of course, things have to be put right, and of course, responsibilities have to be apportioned. I'm going to deal with only facts at this very sensitive moment. Number one, you're right, Rahul. But then again, you see the railway minister wears a crown of thorns. It is an impossible situation. One would require upwards of $11 billion to make Indian railways safe to use. It is also a fact that no other government has done more for the railways than the Modi government. It has spent 10 times more money on railways than the UPA did. It has electrified 10 times more tracks than the UPA. It has equipped coaches with 30 times more bio toilets. It has improved passenger comfort and safety, and yet The situation is that lakhs of rail safety jobs are lying vacant. According to NCRB, 250,000 have died of rail accidents this past decade. 250,000. By the time this debate ends, Rahul, 3 Indians would have died in rail accidents. And although so-called consequential train accidents have reduced in the last decade, there has been a 37% increase in them this year compared to the last. Leave aside the damning CAG report that came out recently. I ask, why is it that only 1,420 kilometers of a total of 125,000 kilometers of Indian rail track network has been made kavach enabled? Government shouldn't handle businesses or organizations. They can't handle businesses or organizations, and yet they do. Number two, let me come straight to the resignation question, because that is pressing in everyone's mind. Look, Mr. Ashwani Vaishnav undoubtedly has been a decent, hard-working minister, and as I already told you, is handling a hopeless, unreformable, state-owned dinosaur. When people talk of earlier occasions where rail ministers have resigned, from Lal Bahadur Shastri to Mamata Banerjee, it is worth asking, was the accident in the wake of which they resigned the first accident during their tenure? And in all those cases, the answer is absolutely no. Therefore, the resignation is more a political or a moral decision, as no minister can or has been able to set the railway mess right. Also, if resignations were to happen after every accident, Rahul, then no minister will be able to keep his position for more than a week. Finally, just 10 seconds. I think the time has come, many would disagree with me, but the time has come for the railways to be completely privatized, because as Narendra Modi had said way back in 2013, the government has no business to be in business. And we've already seen what the situation was when the government was running airlines. When will we learn?
Well, a lot of lines, viewers, a lot of the railways in certain developed countries is privatized. Of course, there'll be a hue and cry if you are supposed to propose that. Monojit Mondol will twist and turn and say that this is not the way. You can't do away with the monopoly of the government. It's the biggest provider of employment. How can we? So what is one supposed to do, viewers, in such an environment where the government caves in under political pressure of the opposition and doesn't go in for privatization? Thank you, Dr. Ranganathan, actually, for putting it into perspective for us. But let me just bring in the Congress representative here, Rohan Mitra. Mr. Mitra, look, your questions are valid. They're perennial questions. But what do we do? What is the solution? And are you part of the problem, or are you part of the solution? You have to tell us tonight, Mr. Mitra.
Good evening, Rahul. Good evening to everyone else. Rahul, first of all, don't make us we are not vultures. We are not, we are not here to make grief, enjoy this moment. We are not. People have lost their lives. I was just listening to Mr. Ranganathan, and he puts out a lot of numbers out there. There's one more number which is out there. In 2017, there was a fund which was created for the safety of the railway board and the railway passengers and everything. And there's a CAG report on that, where the money hasn't been spent. You brought out the kavach. Why is the kavach not being taken account? Why is the kavach not there? The questions here are very simple. When the government, when it does its own PR, when it talks about the governance, maximum governance and minimum ministry, we are talking about a person like Mr. Vaishnav. He's been given charge of 2 ministries here. And then today also there's a PR press release on the fact that he's in charge of the BJP in a certain states. The railway ministry, for its matter, it's a very important ministry. It is supposed to be an independent ministry on its own. We do not have the budget of the railway anymore in the public eye. We don't get it. It's part of the main budget, the finance budget. So the questions here are very simple. Here is like, we are talking about things which people's lives are associated. If it's a human error today, what I understand, whatever little information is out there, it's a human error. Why is the railways not hiring more people? If there is, why can't there be 3 drivers for that particular locomotive engine? The train should have 3. Their government is giving out 20 lakhs as, the person who have lost their lives. So instead of putting 20 lakhs out there, they could have hired somebody. And what is the cost of hiring more people? We know for a fact there are 30 lakh government jobs which are not being taken account of. The people are not being hired. You can go, the technology is not always the same thing. This is India. This is not Tokyo. This is not Japan. Here, things are always going to be different. You must have more people, more employment. Going privatized, you're not going to get, you're talking about privatizing the Indian aero field, the aeroplanes. But you see what the skyrocketing prices of the airline tickets have gone up. So here we have prices have gone up, but the services are not coming. The Congress is talking about
No, but
bringing
that,
accountability
privatization,
to
let's not,
responsibility.
you're muddling 2-3 issues. Look,
No, because the
privatization is the natural.
privatization
No, one
came up
second.
as a topic. So it
One
came up
second,
as a topic. I am answering that.
Mr. Rohan Mitra, let me just quickly put it in perspective. There are a lot of industries which are privatized, as you know. We've also had nationalization. Look at what happened to our banks when they were nationalized, to the point where, I mean, the entire, NPA crisis admitted by an economist that you guys cherish so much. So let's put things in perspective. It's important that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I understand that these are issues, and let me get Savio Rodriguez and Dr. Ranganathan, if he wants to rebut, by all means. So Savio Rodriguez, first, Mr. Mitra does have a point. There's no doubt about it. There is a tragedy, often repeats itself. And when tragedy repeats itself so often, then unfortunately it compounds. And look at what has happened. Lives are lost once again. Dr. Ranganathan gave you statistics. 3 people die almost as we speak, on the railway tracks or related railway accidents. So how does the government, how do we hold you to account fundamentally?
See, we have to understand the situation at hand and basically bifurcate what is happening as far as the noise around the incident is concerned. The politics around the incident will always continue. That's the role of the opposition, and they will continue to play politics around it.
Yeah.
But the real factor is the main aspect of how long does it take for us as a government in timely manner to go about setting the kavach which was introduced by this government across the entire network of the entire railway network. Now, that has turned out to be a very cumbersome task. And I believe that's where the problem is to a certain extent. And I agree with you that we should utilize more manpower, utilize more man hours, and ensure, and more budget actually, to ensure that every railway network in this country does have the coverage as soon as possible within the next couple of months. That should be done on the war footing. Because if
No, so why is it not being done? And who's accountable? At the end of the day, that question will be asked. The more lives are lost, the more urgently that question will be asked. Now, Mr. Vaishnav is a great guy, he's very well-meaning, all of this, fine, I understand that. But the buck has to stop somewhere. After Balasore, it stopped at the desk of some engineers, this, that, the other. But here, history is repeating itself.
The kavach that was brought in, Rahul, the kavach was brought in as a mechanism to ensure that railway accidents are curtailed or stopped completely. Having said that, let us also understand that the complexities around railway accidents that happened, and if you analyze all of them, there will always be something new or untechnical that would have gotten technical to create that accident. So while it is, yes, imperative that the government has to ensure that every single railway route has the coverage, I think what we need to look for answers is what is the timeline going to be taken by the new government right now to ensure that every single rail network, and that's the question we should be asking. Is there a lack of funds? If there is a lack of funds, then why doesn't the funds be allocated towards one of the most important lifelines of transportation in India at this point of time?
Okay, because the opposition will say, well,
is.
There are funds clearly because you're putting out Vande Bharat Expresses, this, that, the other. Dr. Ranganathan, that's what I'll go to, of course, Mr. Mondol in just 2 minutes after you. But that's what he's going to say. He says your priorities are wrong.
And he would be right. I'll be very honest about it. If you find that
Professor
only
Mandal is a
1%
very
of
intelligent man. Professor Mandal is a very intelligent man, and of course he will bring up what
No, I'll bring him in.
Still remains.
I'll bring him in.
The fact of the matter still remains that the kavach, which was brought in as a mechanism to ensure that there are less accidents, railway accidents that happen, is something that needs to be implemented on an urgent basis.
Yeah, but the testing happened 8 years ago. I mean, we're now talking about eons. I mean, why? And who's accountable? That's the fundamental question. One second. Dr. Ranganathan, yes. And Professor Mondal right after. Yeah.
Yes, as to your question about the opposition talking about priorities, and I would actually sincerely agree with them. Because, you know, the mandate to improve things logically lies that you need to improve it for 95% of the people who are using something as opposed to the 5%. Let me be very honest. Those 5% who can afford to go on Vande Bharat can also afford an air ticket, most possibly. True. But the 95% who are not availing the Vande Bharat are consigned and confined to using technology where only 10% of the track is declared safe. That to me is unacceptable. So the fact remains, over and above that, I profoundly disagree with my good friend Rohan when he's talking about privatization and going against it. By privatizing does not mean that you do away with regulations. Please, you have to have a sense of competition, and monopoly ruins things. Yeah. I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel out here. So yes, privatization has to happen, but till such time it doesn't happen, 95% of the Indians who are using railway tracks, their priority has to be safety for them.
Professor Mondal, the leader of your party, the TMC, at one time was also a railway minister. We saw a rash of accidents happen, and she even took, as you remember very clearly, she took ownership, if you remember that. That portfolio remained with your party under Mr. Dinesh Trivedi also, for years altogether. So I think, and then of course, it went off to the RJD. All of these are people who are part of the India bloc, so they know a little bit about how they also let the side down, so to speak. And this continues. But what we've never really had is accountability across party lines. Why?
First of all, I mean, the kind of accidents that